Yo, what's good, everybody? Buckle up because the Portland Trail Blazers just had one of the wildest off seasons in the entire NBA. And if you're not talking about this team yet, you are sleeping. 3 months ago, Portland was the league's feel-good underdog story. A young, scrappy roster nobody respected, sneaking into the playoffs, straight up stealing a game off the eventual Western Conference champs. Feel-good vibes all around Rip City. But here's the thing, feel-good doesn't win banners. And Portland's front office knew it. So instead of running it back with the same group, they blew the doors off this off-season. New star point guard, new head coach. A franchise legend walking back through the door. This is not the same Blazers team you saw in April. Let's get into it. Okay, first things first. We gotta talk about the move that had the entire league doing a double take. Portland trading for a two-time All-Star point guard this summer. On paper? Confusing. Portland's biggest issue last season was spacing. They got smothered by a defense that just packed the paint and dared them to shoot. So logically, you'd think they need more shooters, right? Instead, they bring in another ball-dominant guard who's never been a knockdown shooter from deep. Weird move. Until you look at the pre-IC, this is a guy who years ago, teams wouldn't even dream of trading. Face of the franchise type talent. But after a rocky stretch that tanked his value around the league, his old team found themselves in a spot where they just needed to move on. And honestly, finding a trade partner willing to take the risk wasn't easy. Enter Portland and listen, they did not have to gut the roster to get this done. No draft capital, no young core sacrificed, just 2 rotation pieces heading out the door. That's the kind of value teams dream about. Now let's be real about what they gave up though, because it's not nothing. One piece was a veteran wing who'd quietly been Portland's most reliable outside shooter. A guy putting up efficient numbers, but on the wrong side of 30, with defense that's slipping and a contract that hasn't caught up to his declining production. The other piece was a young, athletic role player. Hard-nosed, does the little things, but the offensive game never developed enough to lock down a real long-term spot. So here's the real question hanging over this whole trade. Is the elite version of this point guard still in there? Because when he's right, he might be the single most explosive downhill guard in the sport. The kind of player who collapses an entire defense just by touching the paint if that guy shows up? Portland just pulled off a full-blown haste. If he doesn't, this thing could unravel fast, but here's the smart part. Portland didn't marry themselves to this. He's locked in for 2 more years. All-star form, they extend him. Doesn't work out, they ride it out or flip him before the deal's up. Low risk, massive upside, smart business. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Because the splashiest trade of the summer might not even be the biggest storyline. That honor goes to the franchise legend making his return to Rip City after missing last season with a major injury. Before he went down, this guy's still averaging right around 25 points a night with a different team. He is not walking back into Portland to play a bench role. He wants the ball, and that's exactly where the tension starts to build. Because now Portland's got a backcourt logjam like you wouldn't believe. Multiple all-star caliber guards, all fighting for touches, for minutes, for a starting spot. That's a great problem to have on paper. But it's still a problem. The obvious move. Start the 2 biggest offensive engines together. 2 guys who can get a bucket whenever they want. Dictate tempo. Put pressure on any defense in the league. The catch. Defense. You can hide one undersized offense-first guard on D hiding 2 of them every single night over an 82-game season. That's brutal. And we've literally seen this movie before in Portland with a different backcourt duo. Years of high-powered offense. A conference finals run. But every single postseason, the defense couldn't hold up, and the whole thing came apart. So now the front office is betting that swapping in this new pairing changes the ending. History says, that's not going to be simple. Now let's talk about the guys who make this whole thing tick outside the backcourt, because the depth here is serious. You've got an elite 3-and-D wing anchoring the perimeter defense. You've got a breakout big man coming off a legit all-star caliber season. 24-6-6, doing a little bit of everything. You've got a rim-protecting center holding down the middle. And then the bench. Multiple former starters, former all-stars even, coming off the pine. Talent has never been the issue with this roster. The question is fit. Can all these pieces, new star, returning legend, breakout big man, deep bench, actually coexist, because if the two smaller guards are logging heavy minutes together, that defensive ceiling drops fast. And we all know what happens to shaky defenses once the playoffs hit. The X factor here might actually be that breakout big man. Last season he was forced to carry a massive offensive load that pulled him away from his defensive strengths. Now, with two ball-dominant guards handling the primary playmaking, he can get back to doing what makes him special, using his size and physicality on both ends. If he does that, this roster can compete with anybody. But here's the thing, y'all. None of this matters if the locker room isn't buying in. And that's why the most important hire of the entire offseason might not even be a player. It's the brand new head coach. Portland's coaching situation had been chaos. Their previous coach's tenure ended abruptly amid a scandal that rocked the whole organization, forcing an emergency coaching search at the worst possible time. After missing out on their top target, they landed on a long-time NBA assistant getting his very first shot as a head coach. But don't let first-time head coach fool you. This guy's been grinding on NBA benches for almost 2 decades. Multiple stops across the league, building a reputation as one of the sharpest, most detail-obsessed assistants in the game. And on top of the X's and O's, he's known around the league for his people skills, the kind of energy that gets vets and young guys to buy into the same vision. Some people around the league even jokingly call him the Ted Lasso of the NBA for how he connects with a locker room. And he's not just a good vibes guy either, he's proven he can coach in big moments, stepping in during multiple high-stakes playoff and regular season situations for his previous team and delivering results, including helping guide that team all the way to a conference finals appearance. His offensive philosophy? Free-flowing. Ball movement, quick decisions, reading the defense on the fly. For a roster loaded with playmakers, that system might be the exact glue this team needs. He's only guaranteed 1 season on his deal, but that's not the front office hedging. That's urgency. Portland thinks they can compete right now, so big picture, where does all this land? Let's be honest, the West is stacked. You've got last year's deep playoff teams at the top of the mountain, and right behind them, a gauntlet of stars. Some of the best players alive. Cracking that top tier doesn't happen in one summer, but that was never really the point of this off-season. This wasn't about becoming an instant title favourite. It was about raising the ceiling, taking a scrappy young playoff team and finding another gear. Is this roster perfect? Not even close. There are real questions, real risk. But it's also Lockhart, new star, a returning legend, a fresh coaching voice, and a completely different ceiling than what we saw in April. This Blazers team has enough talent to make anybody uncomfortable in a 7-game series, and enough question marks that literally any outcome feels believable. So that's the big Blazers breakdown. New era, new expectations, and a lot riding on how these pieces come together. Drop your prediction in the comments. How far do you think this team goes? Toilet free. And if you're locked in for more breakdowns like this, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.